America, we stand for freedom. Though freedom is never really free, we yearn and strive for government protecting our liberty.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Your Right to Know, brought to you by the Fitchburg Republican City Committee. I will be your co-host today. My name is attorney Andrew Couture, and with me is my friend and fellow Fitchburg Republican Mary Lotze. And today we have a special guest, Elmer Eubanks, a Republican candidate for the Massachusetts State House of Representatives. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
And now the tables are turned. I know you've hosted our show. Now we get to go back to you and start asking you.
I get to be in the hot seat.
You get to be in the hot seat. And we're going to be discussing your run for the Mass State House of Representatives. You're a returning guest as well as a former host of the show. And this time we're going to talk to you about your run, and the Massachusetts House of Representatives, representing Fitchburg and Precinct B of Lunenburg. How's the campaign going, Elmer?
Well, it's, we're starting out. We're starting to get our ducks in a row, trying to get organized, getting volunteers, getting the campaign going. We got on the ballot, so that's the biggest thing, was trying to get that, thanks to everybody that helped us out. The biggest challenge is now to get all the information out, so start to meet people and try to make sure that we're connecting and people get to know who I am, and that's going to be the biggest challenge now, trying to get out there and get the word out that we're running, that someone's actually challenging and can make a difference in the district. I think that's the biggest effort now that's going to be pushing forward. Excellent.
So let's begin with a short introduction of you. Tell us again about yourself, your background, and what you currently do.
So I'm currently a professor at the Mount and at Quinsigamond Community College. I teach economics, marketing, and different business courses. I'm a former small business owner. I've owned, we did granite countertops and kitchens, and I've done consulting work and international trade, and I've done quite a bit of stuff in the community too. I've been in Massachusetts about 33 years, approximately, and working in the community, I was director of Centro Las Americas, which is now called Centro, and been a high school teacher. Been an educator before that as well, so I've been involved doing different things in the community, from economic development to working on immigration issues, helping the community in Worcester and around. Did a lot of economic development work. As you can see, a little bit of Worcester. Now if you go downtown Worcester, some of that we had a little bit of a hand in there, which is kind of cool to start to see some of the things that I was involved with, and to see that happening now and seeing the change that could happen. I would like to bring that here to Fitchburg too, make a difference here in the community, and hopefully bring some of that talent, some of the leadership skills that I have, some of the connections. I've worked with legislature. We've actually done earmarks. I've done economic development grants. I was chair of the Urban Initiative Fund, which actually did grants and loans to different communities throughout the state, and especially communities that were hurting a lot financially. So I think that's a little bit of the background, trying to put it in a nutshell a little bit and encapsulate some of the work that I've done.
I know one of the things that I saw when I was looking over your biography to help us tonight was you've actually been appointed to numerous community panels and councils and committees by 3 former governors, going back to Jane Swift, Bill Weld, even Mitt Romney has sought you out to sit on different panels and councils and committees. Do you think this involvement that you've had with previous governors would also then help you with helping as a legislature with Governor Charlie Baker? I
believe so. I actually sat on the Urban Initiative Fund, and Charlie was on that board as well when he was at A&F. So I think I have a lot of connections that I've worked with in the community, helping. And those appointments, have helped the community as well. I was at Worcester State College and the board, and also the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, which actually works on tax credits. And we approve a lot of tax credits for the cities and towns, but largely for large businesses. So I'd like to change that and have to use that information, that expertise, to try to focus it on our small businesses here in the town as well.
Sure.
Something that I haven't seen done. It was mostly on the large scale, the big businesses, the $50 million business that are coming to town, and we're going to give them tax credits. But what does that do? How do we help the little guy that's here, that wants to stay in town, that's having to leave because their taxes are high? We need to help them too. So I hope that expertise of actually being on those committees and knowing all those people and connections to try to bring that. So not only the legislative side, but also bring it to to actually something concrete that we can actually say, hey, we can do this here in Fitchburg.
Sure.
Too.
Now, you've run for office before, many years ago. What made you decide to run for office again at this time?
So this time, I think a couple of things came together to kind of get me to run again. A couple of friends, including Mary and Frank and Dean. Dean sat down with me and said, Dean Tran, and he was like, Elmer, we need, I think you got the talent. You should run. We can make a difference together and work together here in the district. Him as a senator and hopefully me as a state rep, that we can make a difference in the town. So that kind of like cemented it. But it started with really issues here in town, trying to fix a property that I bought, and this whole long process of, it's like we need to fix the city, but they don't make it easy for anybody to fix the properties that are here. And we have all these boarded up properties, and we got to do something about them, right? So that's kind of what started me, getting me like, okay, I got to change this.
Your inspiration.
That was my inspiration to there's a lot of people complaining about this, so instead of complaining only, I said I'll jump in and actually do something, something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us about your relationship with Dean?
So with Dean, Dean, I helped a little bit on his campaign when he ran for Senate, and so he's running for Senate, and I know a lot of times people are like, are you running for Dean's? No, I'm not. We're friends.
When we were out collecting signatures,
right,
that was one of the
question,
things
right?
people say, I want to vote for Dean, but how can I vote for you?
And we're not running against each other. We're running, he's running for Senate, and I'm running for
the state rep.
And so I think it'll be a good complement to have both of us there, one on the one side of the House and Dean on the Senate side, and hopefully complement our work and work together on different,
Dean, after only a few months in office, has been very successful and very popular.
He's done a lot in 100 days.
He really has, his energy is outstanding. And what about you? I mean, you feel that you can chip in.
I feel I can chip in and make a difference.
And work along with that. I actually think it's, for our viewers, I think it's pretty amazing that right now I believe Dean has inspired a lot of individuals right in our own area in terms of running for office, because we not only have Elmer, who is our friend, and we're very proud of the fact that you've taken this on, but we also have other young individuals in our district, 3 that I can think of right off that are all running, and it's all because they've seen Dean do something, and they say, if Dean can do it, I can do it, and they've become energized and excited.
I think that's really what encourages I think all of us to. It's like, hey, Dean's doing it, and he's actually doing some changes, making things happen, and it's like, so if he can do it, we can also jump in and do it, and use our experience and our expertise to try to help the district.
One of the things that's always difficult in a campaign, of course, it's getting your name out, is probably name recognition being the number one difficulty in introducing yourself to the voters. But I think the second thing that's probably even more critical in some ways, or equally as critical, is fundraising. And I know, because your current employment is as a state employee, that this is becoming very difficult for you, and you cannot fundraise. Can you just explain that without explaining your needs for funds? And I'll do that.
So that's the biggest challenge, I think. The regulations that they put in don't allow for state employees to fundraise, because they want to make sure that you're not taking bribes and all that stuff. So that's kind of the impetus behind that. And so it makes it very hard to raise money in the campaign. So I have to separate and actually have a committee, and they have to do the fundraising. I can't even give them names, so it's like they have to come up with them on their own and try to do all that on themselves. So it's a little bit of a challenge, but I recruited my son and my daughter to get that, and a few other people that are helping out. Frank and Heather, the Jesus is going to jump in as well. So got a lot of people that want to volunteer and help us out. I've got a couple of friends that are also jumping in to help in that aspect of it.
Sure.
So hopefully we'll get a few people going there. There's another friend of mine, one of my former students, Jackie Vokey. She's doing accounting, so she's going to jump in as our assistant treasurer.
Wonderful?
So yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? Your students are even giving you support in your endeavor.
Yeah, that was surprised because I get calls now. It's like, you're running for office? I didn't know that you're doing that. I live in Fitchburg. Can I help you out? So that's been exciting to try to...
And your son even started a, what do they call that fund? GoFundMe.
GoFundMe, yeah. My daughter and son, they did a page. They've got a PayPal account. They've got that set up and a GoFundMe.
So I'm going to tell our viewers, right now, I'm going to use this opportunity to tell our viewers that if you would like to contribute to the campaign to elect, which we say CTE Elmer Eubanks, you can either go to the GoFundMe page for Elmer Eubanks for state representative, or you can send a CTE Elmer Eubanks, which is Committee to Elect Elmer Eubanks, check to, and it's a P.O. box, and it's going to be, I have it here, P.O. Box 289, Marlborough, Mass., and that's 01752. And we will say that again before it's over, because
thank you.
I will promote Elmer, because he's my friend, but I just also know we need a change, and you will be that change we need in Boston.
Thank you.
Let's talk about some of the changes you want to bring. What are some of the key items that you want to bring to the state of?
So I think, having experienced the issues with the housing and looking at the stock here in Fitchburg, the housing that's being boarded up and the properties that are in disrepair, I would really like to see how we can focus on that and use some of the work that I've done in affordable housing development to try to bring some resources to the city to allow us to then have some grants if we have to take down some buildings that need to be taken down, if we can get some buildings to be get repaired or to be taken, so that and make the process easier. A couple of the regulations that are out there that they use to kind of like, oh well, the property's been abandoned for more than 2 years, so you can't do anything. Now you got to go through a year-long process. For a homeowner, that's really onerous. Yeah. I mean, it's really tough. I can understand an investor. Okay, I'm going to buy the house, and I know the process, a year long and whatever. But I think we should make it easier for homeowners. So if you're going to occupy the house as a homeowner, then we should have a easier process to go through, where you pull the permit and you can go through the process of and maybe list out what we need to do to get the property to the proper state that we need to have it. The other aspect is the small businesses. I think having worked with small business in the past as well, and having been a small business owner, one of the things that I like to see is to try to bring some resources, maybe some matching funds to the CDBG. If no one knows what CDBG is, it's Community Development Block Grants. They're out of HUD, and they give them to the cities to parcel out. But I think we can also get some matching funds from the state to also help that with maybe doing some facade improvements to help the small business. Let's try to reduce their taxes. The other thing, having been on the tax credit board, I'd like to see us focus on making it an easier process for the small business owner. I've talked to a lot of small businesses, and they're like, I don't have the time or the attorneys and all this money to put a big packet together to apply for these tax credits. So we got to figure out how can we make it an easier process, 1 or 2 page application for any business under 10 million that wants to stay in Fitchburg, that wants to help grow their business here. How do we help them? And I think that's what I'd like to focus on. Some of the 3 items that I think, off the bat, I think could be helpful for the city. We're losing business. I just talked to another business. They moved to Sterling the other day. The taxes are just too high in Fitchburg, so they're like it's the process of staying here, the paperwork. So we got to figure out how do we do that? How do we get together? Maybe put a commission together to help Fitchburg help our small businesses stay here and not go and open their business somewhere else.
You mentioned the taxes being high, and I certainly agree. But another thing that's high in Fitchburg is our utilities. And our utilities are onerous for residents and small businesses. And this is something that, I always think should be coming from our state and our state attorney general to look at how our utilities are
and that's true.
gouging us.
The attorney general hasn't done anything on that respect, and you know, that should be one of the things that she should be looking into. I mean, I've seen my bill. Last time I saw it was $2,800 for the winter. I'm like,
sure,
that is insane,
right,
compared to last year, where I only spent like $600. You know, so what happened? You know, it's just insane. So I worked on some legislation early on, back in, I don't know when it was, that we did the utility deregulation, where we could actually get, and we got it passed, where we got deregulated the utilities so that we could actually buy our supplier side. But I think we might need to do something on the provider side too, you know. And I think a lot of Fitchburg people are going to be happy if we go after. I mean, Unitil might not be happy, but we need to, you know, they need to come to the table and say, hey, you know, what is going on? Why are we the highest? You know, why do we have to pay so much in Fitchburg? And that's one of the reasons people are leaving too. Not only taxes, but they're like, hey, I can't afford. I had one friend that, you know, she's going to help my campaign because she's like, I got charged $1,000 for utilities this month, and I turned everything off.
Right.
Everything off. I have one room with just a fridge and my stuff, and I'm still paid $1,000. So something's wrong.
Right.
Something's not right.
Right.
So we need to figure that out and make sure that we fight them.
So, as somebody with a background in economics, how do you think you can change the focus in the state economy?
Well, I think, you know, definitely one thing I'd like to see is that we bring back our taxes back to maybe 5%. Try to lower that to 5%. I think we ever since I came here, it's been like Taxachusetts. That's we're known around the country for that.
Are.
And I don't see that we need to. You know, we got to figure out how to balance our finances so that we don't have to charge that much taxes. So hopefully, I'll be on the side to lower our taxes. Be fighting for that, try to lower our tax. The other thing is, I see there's a momentum going that they're going to try to raise our minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I started to discuss it with my students, and we're trying to figure out, like, well, who's going to be affected?
Right.
What's going to happen if we do? Because it sounds great. It's like, oh, you know, we got all these people that need to get their wages raised, right? Okay. So we raised our minimum wage to $15. For the first couple months, they're like happy, because, you know, they were able to get a little bit extra money. But then after that, the prices rise and everything goes up again, and they're back to ground zero. So I think we should be focusing is what can we do to get them the skills so that they can get from minimum wage and on. So education, training skills, how do we put that on the table? So that to me would be more important than raising the minimum wage. And I know a lot of people probably voted in, you know, they're trying to get it on the ballot, and it sounds great. And I think I figured out it was 22,000 people that are actually on minimum wage. And if you look at what happens to them, I've talked to a few of them, and they're like, well, my hours got reduced when the minimum wage went to 11. So I was working 30 hours, now I'm working 15.
Sure.
So did we really help them? No.
Right.
We made it worse.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then they have to pay more tax too. So.
Or they were put out of work because now
the
they
employer
brought in a robot, or the boss is
you were seeing
now.
that at McDonald's.
Sure.
You know, you order your own stuff now. You don't have that person ordering.
I'm a terrible person with that kind of stuff. The last time I went in there, it said I owed $45, and I was like, there's no way I spent $45 at McDonald's. But so obviously, it takes some knowledge on how to work this, which also brings up the question. You know, if there's an elderly person who goes in for their coffee, are they going to be able to do that?
Right. Or somebody who just isn't skilled with computers.
Right. Yeah, it's like, now I got to learn computers.
Right. I mean, I don't think a lot of these things are that user-friendly for the average, the average person.
And I think that's, you know, McDonald's and all these other companies they're like, hey, you know, if you don't, you know, we got to cut somewhere, so we're going to do that. You know.
Now, how difficult are you finding it to become a candidate? Do you find it kind of daunting just to go up and try to put your name out there and say, I want to become a candidate? Really, you lose a lot of your personal freedom, your personal privacy by putting yourself out there. Has your family or your children seem to be joining in on your campaign and active with it, but do you see there's a downside in becoming a candidate?
I think there is. I mean, you're exposed. You know, you put your whole life out. You know, for everybody to read, and so that's a bit of a challenge. And can be a little bit daunting. Also, it can be a little bit lonely sometimes because you don't know, like, is everybody going to help me when I need them? And like, what's going to happen? And but at the same time, it's also fun. Like, I'm meeting more people and getting to know more people in the district, and hopefully, it'll balance out, and so the negatives can balance out with the positives, and hopefully make a change.
Now, it was very interesting, Andrew, because Elmer and I stood out frequently with certainly many others, and we would get signatures for his nomination papers. And the number one thing that people said as they would come up is they would say to Elmer, I'm going to vote for you for state representative if the first thing you do when you get in office is not to give yourself a pay raise.
Oh, yeah.
So let me ask you, I mean, that was
I could take that pledge right now, right?
heard that people said, I'm not going to vote for you if you give yourself a pay raise. That is still sticking in the craw of so many of our voters, of the things that people are angry about when they think of electing someone with good faith, sending them to Boston, and the first thing they do, despite all their promises, to vote themselves in a pay raise.
Yeah, and I think that's unconscionable. I mean, and it was a huge raise, right? It was. It's like, it wasn't like you got 1% or cost of living. Some people haven't gotten cost of living raises for the last 5-6 years, and so what do they need that, right? And they have other jobs too, so it's not like that's their only job. So go figure. We really need that. So yeah, I'll take that pledge.
So do you think it's more difficult getting your name around to the voters because you're not a current office holder?
I think that makes it a little bit harder. I think a lot of people probably like to see somebody that's been, that they already know, they've seen how they act. It's sort of like what Dean has done, like he was a city councilor, and I think that's a little bit of a challenge. But I think I compensate that with being involved in the community. I've been involved at the local level. When I was living in Lancaster, I was involved in several of the committees and search committees, and in Worcester I was involved with different things from the strategic planning for the city. So so you could be involved and not necessarily be elected, but I think this time I can bring all those experiences to the elected side.
Now the state office holders are, let's face it, are represented primarily by Democrats who hold the state Senate and the state House of Representatives. Do you believe that electing more Republicans to represent Beacon Hill will get better representation?
I believe so. I mean, if we can get a balance, I think we start to see things not, actually, I try to get government to get out of our business as much as possible. So if we have a balance where sometimes things don't get done as much, that's probably a good thing. So yeah, definitely. I think we need to have a balance. We need to have both. If we can get a good number of Republicans in and start to make a difference, we could actually. I mean, right now there's a lot of different shenanigans going on in the state house that you go like, what are they doing?
It's pretty embarrassing what's going on in Boston.
This red flag.
The red flag bill. I'm glad that you brought that up because obviously we had Republicans that are voting to take people's civil rights away. Just stripping them of their right to carry a firearm over baseless allegations. No,
and see, this is what I thought about it. When I first saw that, I was like, it's going to be like Salem, deja vu. We're going to be witch hunting everybody. And it's like, we're just going to be accusing you of like, you can't have a firearm. So just on the accusation, we're going to go and take away your firearm and take you to court and drag you through that process. So that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's like we're going back to Salem.
You are multilingual. Do you think that will help you as a candidate as you go around the city of Fitchburg?
I hope so. I think there's a large percentage of people here in Fitchburg that speak Spanish, and they speak English too, but a lot of them speak Spanish. And I think to have somebody that can actually speak their language would be kind of cool, I think, on their view. It would be
certainly like people who approached you when we were standing out getting signatures certainly appreciated the fact that you were speaking their language.
Yeah. And I think, and I think they appreciated that, and hopefully, I can translate some of that and the understanding of culturally, even though I was born in Costa Rica, but, my sister was born in Puerto Rico, so we can count that in. So we have, a little bit of a, combination of things. I also speak Portuguese, so and we have a little bit of an increase in the Portuguese population here as well too. So hopefully that can help the community. I think it's time to have somebody that can actually represent more than just one community and represent us all.
Well, and I think, if we look for Dean Tran, he's so successfully been able to bridge that sort of multi-ethnic gap, beautifully. He's done that.
And represent us all, right?
Yes.
Not just be like, oh, I'm just representing my
one segment.
No, he
of
represents
the
us all,
population.
which is great.
What I'd like you to do now, as I thank you, and Andrew and I thank you for coming, because our half hour is almost all over. I'd love for you to face the camera, your camera, and talk to the people for a minute or two, and just tell them why you can help them, why you feel you are the best person to hold public office. And also, if you could say it in Spanish, that would be wonderful too.
Thank you. Well, I'm Elmer Eubanks, and I'd like to ask for your vote in November and also in September, since we're coming for primaries anyway. I think I can bring to the district a big change, and I can make a difference with the economic development, housing, education, all these three items that we could do a difference in our district. And I feel that my background and my skills can actually be useful in the district and actually represent you. And I believe right now we're not being represented very well. And I think we can make that change and have some representation. So, quiero pedirte tu voto, que votes por mí en noviembre y en septiembre. Quiero que puedan ver un representante que esté a su favor, que esté trabajando para la educación de sus hijos, para la economía y para nuestra vivienda, y que podamos aquí ayudarnos mutuamente a hacer un distrito mejor. Les agradezco mucho y felicidades. Muchas gracias por su voto. Thank you.
I almost understood most of what he said, so that's pretty good for
Well,
me.
good for you. That's because you're an attorney.
I spoke slow enough, right?
Exactly.
And you have worked with different populations in your practice, so you lost me at Elmer, but that's okay, because you're going to get my vote in November.
Thank you.
So Andrew and I really appreciate you coming in tonight and sharing with our audience your knowledge, your background, and why you will be a very successful, not only candidate, but representative for the state of Massachusetts, for our district. And we thank you for watching Your Right to Know and sitting in here tonight with the Fitchburg Republican City Committee. As we leave you, we'd like you to remember that your local city or town Republican Committee is the only grassroots organization that supports and holds dear your liberty, your constitutional rights, and your conservative values. We encourage you to join us. Why? Because for us, the GOP stands for growth, opportunity, and prosperity for all people, and because we always stand for freedom. We thank you, and good night.
America, we stand for freedom. So let us all unite to yearn and strive for our republic that reflects our values, that preserves our rights, and goes forth in power and might, that reflects our values and preserves our rights, and goes forth in power and might.